would stay there, because if they had disappeared, we were in trouble. And so the whole world was watching us, and so I just want to say that you were part of the revolution. If you had not been following the revolution and watching so closely, we could not have done it. That's in Tahrir, that's not near the pyramid. That was part of it. Oh, and I have to mention, so many foreigners were in Tahrir Square taking photographs. I mean, it wasn't dangerous there, it was very peaceful, thank God. On March 19th, well, it doesn't stop there. On March 19th, 20 million Egyptians went to the referendum to agree or disagree on the amendments of the Constitution. A first in the history of Egypt, to see such a large number of people participating in a referendum. I confess that I have never participated in any election or referendum in my life. I'm not proud, but like most Egyptians, we always knew that it would not make any difference whether we participated or not. The results were always preset. I now feel excited about the future. Like millions of Egyptians, I feel I am responsible for my country. I have a civil responsibility. But it has also come clear to the Egyptians that we have a long way to go in learning about democracy, civil rights, and political participation. You are talking of a deprived population for years and years, longer than you think. I mean, my own children, and so most of you have been born when Mubarak was ruling and have grew up seeing only Mubarak and knowing only Mubarak, and you have no idea when at one point we thought he was eternal. I mean, he was 84 and nothing was happening to him. He even had black hair. Again, this is a role civil society is stepping up to assume, educating our people. NGOs and active volunteers are organizing themselves to make sure this mission is accomplished, to educate, teach, and encourage. Well, in AFS Egypt, our smaller world, we are proud to have played and will continue to play our active role and contribute to the changing face of our country, living up to our core values. To begin with, as we had to evacuate on January 30th, evacuate the AFS participants from Egypt. Volunteers were stepping up everywhere to support, drive to the airport, provide accommodation near the airport, collect luggage or whatever was needed. Here I would like to mention that it was hard for us to evacuate our precious students, but we had no idea what was coming next, and safety of students always comes first in AFS. Well, having taken care of our participants and knowing that they were all safely back home in their countries, we shifted our attention to our revolution. As I spent my days in Tahrir Square, I was happy to be bumping into our AFS volunteers all the time. Returnees, some of whom were even camping there, were ready to do whatever it took. They were simply applying what they learned during their AFS abroad, expressing themselves clearly, and speaking up. My own son, who is also an AFS returnee, was there with his little tent set up, solid as a rock, right in the middle of Tahrir Square. He had a little sign on his tent that read, "Motel of Freedom." I couldn't get a picture of that. Like millions of others, he did not leave until February 11th, when Mubarak was ousted and the first mission accomplished. But he knew that it was only the beginning, that there was a long road ahead of him in his fight for freedom. Well, naturally, AFS volunteers were among the very first on the next day to clean up, to organize blood drives, and volunteer with the Egyptian Food Bank in relief efforts, and much more. And now, we have formed groups and teams that will be visiting chapters, organizing large gatherings, whatever we can, with program and agenda, trying to raise political awareness and educate people about their rights, their newfound dignity, and their freedom. We have parliamentary elections in September and presidential elections 60 days after, so we have so much to do in such a short time, and we must all put our hands together. By this humble participation, we are only living up to our core values in AFS. AFS enables people to act as responsible global citizens working for peace and understanding in a diverse world. It acknowledges that peace is a dynamic concept threatened by injustice, inequity, and intolerance. AFS seeks to affirm faith in the dignity and worth of every human being, and for all nations and cultures. It encourages respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, without distinction as to race, sex, language, religion, or social status. That is so true for our revolution. AFS Egypt is proud to resume hosting programs so soon, but of course with much less numbers. But we have to start somewhere. We are hosting 2 participants this summer as opposed to 65 last summer, and 7 on the school program next semester as opposed to 67. We are optimistic though. We affirm that there's a price to pay for our freedom, and we are happy to pay it and start again in the rebuilding. We are happy that we are receiving those young people. They will be joining us at a very interesting time in the history of Egypt and the world, and will be part of our history. History is being made, and in a very peaceful way, very unique in world history. Please be sure that we will take good care of every one of them. In Egypt, we need to share our success. We need to help to rebuild Egypt, and would like to do so with interested participants. Please know that our volunteers and host families are eager to resume programs. Full course. Well, now back to civil engagement. The Egyptian Revolution is a perfect example of a movement initiated and driven by youth. Their ownership and responsibility and engagement in their society and their country. The even better example is what resulted from the complete withdrawal of police force. The intention was to bring chaos, but it only brought out people's human nature of social responsibility. True, this sense of responsibility was dormant for so many years, but it was there. It was inside them. It's human nature. It can be argued that what happened was survival instinct, inaction as a result of threat of personal safety. But what came after, the rebuilding, the will to start over again, the optimism and impressive massive actions taken, cannot be seen as driven by survival instinct. It is true civil responsibility and engagement which comes natural to any human being, but probably only needed triggering. In Egypt, it was a revolution, a shocking event that triggered this human nature to come out strong. In Japan's catastrophic earthquake and tsunami, we have been hearing incredible moving stories of civil engagement. German history is full of shocking events, and from this land, some perfect examples that display how a civil society can be key in building and changing the face of a nation. The whole world looks up to Germany for how its people have moved it through history to be one of the leading nations of the world in record time. They felt responsible, and they were confident that they could change the world, even if one person at a time. They came up with the remarkable idea of youth exchanges to promote peace. Following in their footsteps, we should all be confident in the same way. This is the perfect and inspiring example of social responsibility. Civil engagement and civil responsibility is what kept Egypt in one piece. It is the secret of the success of the revolution, and hopefully the success of the next steps towards a better future. Finally, as I share our humble experience, and so I say to you, get involved. Take initiative. It doesn't matter if you're young or old. It doesn't matter if you are one person, a small group, or a whole population. Know that you are owners of and responsible for your family, your community, your country, your continent, and most important of all, the whole world. Know that you are powerful. You can move mountains. We did it. I mean, Egypt did it. You can believe that. So dear friends, our revolution is not over yet, so please continue to pray for us, and thank you.